Hey,
Well,
what's up, guys? Welcome back to GamerWatch. My name's Ash, and this is Rom.
hello. How's everyone doing?
So today we're going to be discussing, continue discussing the sexual allegations against that females have been promoting, and some males also in the gaming community.
Mm-hmm.
So last time we touched on about Method.
We did.
So Method Josh. Wait, what?
Yeah, I was just gonna say we talked about Method Josh. We talked about like
Right.
the method as an organization itself. We touched on quite a bit on that whole
Right.
situation.
So those are more of the serious allegations out there, the more illegal stuff that were presented within the game community.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's been some more allegations, obviously, that's come out, and more centered around sexual harassment and other different forms of uncomfortable behavior
Yeah,
presented
blurrier
within the game
lines
community.
for sure. Like
Exactly.
gray area. Yeah.
Stuff that would not be necessarily punished legally, but just necessarily should be addressed, whether just changing the societal behavior in terms of making like a better place
Yeah.
in general.
And while that's not to say that we necessarily condone these behaviors. They are worth discussing simply because, like I said, like Ash said, they fall into like a more questionable area that that doesn't immediately mean that they deserve to have legal ramifications imposed on them. So yeah, it's specifically with Fed and Pokimane or Fedmyster. Is that what he's known as, Ash?
Yeah, that's his Twitch name.
Okay. So yeah, you want to go into detail a bit there?
Right, so I guess that's one of the more notable ones, just due to Fedmeister and offline TV. So he is living in just for some context, he lives in like a streamer house with currently, he was living there, he was removed. He was living there with 6 people total, including him. So that was 3 guys and three
So
girls.
what was their organization? Like, how did it all? Like, was
Wait,
he
what?
there from the beginning?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, so Fedmeister was there. And so two of the girls, one of them is name is Yvonne, and the other is Lily Pichu, I think is their handles or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
the Twitch names. And so this is just him about like making um, uncomfortable approaches to them, to Yvonne and Lily. So Yvonne specifically, um, he went out his way. So it was he. They were friends. She starts out saying like in her statement how they're all friends and everything. They were close. They would spend time in her together, just being good friends, watching stuff and all this. Just hanging out, right?
So they were they mostly all gaming though? Like they all played games. They did IRL streams, stuff like that.
I mean, it's whatever their Twitch thing is, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, just whatever their Twitch was. It wasn't necessarily one or the other. Offline TV did like real life stuff. They also game together, and individually they do Twitch stuff also, right?
Yeah.
So as a whole, it's just a streamer house, right? Or a frat house, whatever you want to call it, right?
Headlined by
So,
the two biggest streamers being what, Pokimane and Fed, I guess? Were they the two biggest?
uh, Pokimane for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Fed, I think Fed was definitely growing recently, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, to say the least, yeah, Fed maybe. The others also. I'm not quite sure on like the levels of um, viewership, however, like the strength of them,
Mm-hmm.
because like viewers is not necessarily indicative of like popularity, because there's
True.
also other stuff also. So yeah, Fed was up there for sure. He definitely contributed a lot.
Yeah.
So um, Fedmeister, Fed, he was hanging out with him one day. Or one night, he was drunk, as he said. Comes in and then I think holds her hand, kisses her, and then touches her like on the side, not like her chest, but like the side of her chest, like maybe I think underneath her armpit is what she means,
Oh, that's weird.
but it's not her chest, right? So obviously that's jumping some boundaries right there, right?
So
You
wait,
go from
he
friends
he
to
walked
like,
right into into her room, like in the
yeah,
middle
and
of the
laid down on
night.
her bed.
Okay.
Now, I mean, I believe Yvonne like uh I don't know if she was sleeping or I think she might have been awake. So
Mm-hmm.
I think she was awake, but this is just what based on what she gave us, right? So all this stuff. I mean, so yeah, he went ahead, kissed her hand, right, and touched her like side, like touched her hand, right,
Mm-hmm.
and that was right? That's they were friends, and now he crossed some boundaries, right?
Yeah, I
And
mean
that was
for
just one
sure.
issue, and then another one was Lily, with so Lily had a boyfriend at the time that they broke up because he was cheating,
Mm-hmm.
and then he, some really vulnerable state, he tried to ask her out, right?
What do you mean he
And
tried to
so
ask
that's
her out?
one.
Like in what way? Like just straight up like asking her like
Yeah,
normally?
yeah, that's what it looks like.
Okay.
And then um, he also, I think, gave her a massage, and she was okay with the massage initially.
Mm-hmm.
Like he touched like her thighs and touched her back, or whatever, and so right, so that could be construed as sexual harassment based on whether they're comfortable with it or not. So
Yeah.
those are the two main things. And so they had like intervention, apparently try to twist everything, you know, as he's not the bad guy and everything. And so they decided to make it public and then kick him out, right?
Yeah.
But then also came out with other stuff like Pokey and Fed. Fed was going around telling everyone that he was dating Pokimane,
Yeah.
and so they would leave her alone because everyone thought that she was in a relationship. Then he came out with other stuff how he did this to other girls also, breaking boundaries and like overstepping his boundary, maybe just coming over without knocking, right, and all this stuff.
Yeah, so from my understanding, there was another streamer house maybe close by, maybe called Just Friends or something like that. The Just Friends house is how I've seen it dubbed. I'm not quite
Right,
sure,
I think
admittedly,
so. Yeah.
where he would like go over there and complain about the offline TV house and do the same thing where he would like stay in people's beds and specifically just women, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, yeah, just constantly, it seems like trying to play his cards right with a bunch of different women. At least, again, that's what I've roughly gathered. I'm not as familiar with offline TV, so please correct
So
me.
it also, yeah. So just I'm double checking again, but so it looks like he then came back later for Yvonne, sat on the bed,
Mm-hmm.
came on the lay down on the bed, and then said how he was sorry and everything like that. Because initially he said that he was drunk and did not remember, but it looks like he said he did remember it. So that's just one thing there. And then the Lily thing also, um, right? What Lily did,
Mm-hmm.
and so all of this is just about him overstepping boundaries and him being overly touchy and not like knocking, coming over and not knocking, as you said, right?
Yeah.
And they try to address this with him,
Yeah, you mentioned like an
and they thought they
intervention.
did, but then he went out and like apparently in their opinion, he went out and talked to the other girls he apparently did this with, like being overly touchy and overstepping boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
and said how gave his side of the story, right? And apparently there's other stuff, other streamers how he betrayed like his friends, like the guy friends also, like just manipulation, all that stuff. So this is the other side of the story, right? This is the legal stuff, right? This is not, he's not going to go to jail for this anyway, right? But
Yeah.
this is him going about overstepping boundaries, male and female, and this is right. Mainly, it started with the female, the boundaries he overstepped with the females, right?
Yeah.
And so he made them feel uncomfortable. He made them feel like they live in the house and they couldn't handle it. And so this is the other side of stuff. Like how we deal with the sexual harass. Like, do you want to call it sexual harassment? What do you like? What's the term you want to put on it?
I mean, being a creep is pretty.
Being a creep.
Yeah.
Yeah, being a creep. Okay,
Yeah.
so he's creepy, being a creep, right?
Yeah.
And so apparently there's more stuff, and they said they want to keep it internal, which I 100% respect, right? It's a lot of stuff coming out.
There's a lot. Yeah.
But yeah, Pokimane also left, and he said this was part of the reason how what Fed was doing. So yeah, they try to help him out, and they said that they had an intervention, and he didn't respond the way they thought he should,
Yeah.
right? And so they didn't think it was a good idea for him to continue. And apparently, everyone started talking. There was other stuff that came out, and about like other overstepping boundaries and stuff and manipulation. So that's the Fedmyster story. And then there's another one, I think also relevant to like talking about like the legal side of this, is
Mhm.
Fragnance in Method, which recently broke up. If
Yeah.
you were following that or watched the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
So Fragnance, he he so he was in a guild, I think before Method,
Yeah.
and he was talking with the girl. They got to know each other, and he gave some nudes to him, and then apparently he shared it, and then one of the people he shared it with went back in touch with her and said, "Hey, um, this is happening, right?"
Yeah.
And so she would go to another guild and be like, and then the people that they were playing, that were like reviewing her and all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
or the guild leader and all that stuff would say, "Hey, you want to give us some nudes and we'll let you in."
Oh
And so this
boy.
is another thing is that they're both overage, right? Nothing illegal is going to happen there, but
Yeah.
that could be an uncomfortable situation for, um, just for women in general, right? She stated she had like some mental, um, problems that occurred just because of what happened. So,
Understandable. Did she get into details about that, like specifics, or
in what way?
like did she talk about like how much it affect? Not that the her level of being affected should determines whether or not it was the right move, or whether it was he was morally right. I mean, in the sense of like how severe her um, issues were. Like, did she go into it? Did she need to like go to therapy, or
Oh, like how what?
yeah, like how badly did it affect her? Do we are we?
Um,
If you don't know, I'm
well, let
kind of
me.
just throwing that question at you. To be
I'm not
fair.
quite sure like what exactly. Maybe I'll try to while we're doing this. Maybe we'll try to find the thing again.
Yeah, no
So,
problem, no problem.
yeah. So I have it up right now, and I can go through it directly. So,
Yeah.
this happened was over 6 years ago, right? And
Mhm.
it says that what he did still causes her a great deal of trauma and pain
Mhm.
and distrust in other people, right? So nothing illegal, but very still harmful, in my opinion.
Did he show any accountability for it, or?
I mean, he apologized, and I don't. I mean, what else do you go from there per
Well,
se?
did he
'Cause
apologize after this broke out and he was forced to leave, or?
yeah,
Okay, so
I
it's
mean, force. I mean,
yeah. He apologized because he got
he
caught, not necessarily because he.
maybe so, right?
Yeah, because there's a
So,
big
but
difference, right? Like I would definitely think there's a big difference,
I mean,
especially as the victim. A big difference between someone apologizing just because they get in trouble for something versus
yeah,
doing it because they thought it was wrong. Because,
yeah,
like you said, it was years ago.
yeah. 6 years ago, looks like
Yeah.
so. Right. I mean, but if it causes him to still like reflect, is it still? I mean,
Yeah, I'm not saying
yeah,
like
okay,
so. Okay, I'm not saying like, oh, his apology is completely empty, but you do have
right,
to
right.
take it with a grain of salt because
Yeah,
it's awfully coincidental that he's only apologizing now after he got caught. Meaning, if he didn't get caught, would he be apologizing? Right?
right, true. I
Yeah.
mean, if he was really sorry about it, and I think the problem is with a lot of these allegations,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not illegal. So yeah, when it's not illegal, I think our sensibility or morality about the situation
Mm-hmm.
gets kind of confusing because we might think it's not a big deal, or we may not think of how it affects other people when it's not something that it's like legally shown to be not a good thing, right? And so
Of course.
yes, he should apply. He obviously like hindsight is 2020, right? He should have apologized when it happened, or not even done it, right?
Right.
Um, but if this causes him to reflect and his apology is sincere,
Yeah.
I think that might cause potentially greater change to happen, right?
Hopefully, like, okay, so for instance, you might be a little on the younger side for this, but I don't know. Are you aware of who Michael Vick is?
No,
Okay, so
me.
he was, yeah, I know I'm kind of springing this on you again. He was a huge NFL star, way back in the day. One of the first, he kind of changed the way the quarterback position was played. I'm not even a big football fan myself, but back then I guess I was a little more, in the sense that he was super mobile and he was
Right.
often one of the fastest players on the field, and he was like seen as like the next great star when he was drafted, and led was started to turn an entire franchise around, like kind of carrying it on his shoulders. It came out that he was involved in a dogfighting ring with, I believe, his cousin or something like that, and he had to actually almost entirely lost his career. He went to jail, as a matter of fact, and because dogs were dying and like there was legitimate animal abuse. So he apologized, but obviously he only apologized after he got caught. So like you said, if the person who's being accused of these immoral actions apologizes, even after they're caught, there is an ability to redeem themselves, because like in the case with Michael Vick, he went on to advocate against dog fighting and against animal abuse in general. And so ultimately he may have, if you just look at it from like a purely net positive point of view, he probably did more good than harm. His advocacy efforts in an attempt to clean his name of wrongdoing,
Right.
he did his best to sort of change the way people perceived that problem. However, it still doesn't change the fact that he didn't realize that until he was caught. So again, like, yes, good can come of it, but you
So
take it
so
with
then,
that.
do you think no one can be redeemed?
It depends on the level of the crime. Like, I mean,
So there's
like,
some
so
crimes that no matter what, right?
like we're getting into larger, maybe like political issues,
Sure.
but I do believe, like, for instance, our
But I mean, it helps
criminals.
because like
Sorry.
right, like there's a lot of cancel culture happening per se. Some justified, some isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And like there was one specific case, like Jenna Marbles, how she was canceled for something she did like 10 years ago, or something like that.
What was it that she did? I don't know.
Um,
I've heard that name. I feel like I don't know what it was.
So I don't know. I can look up the specifics really quick, but
Okay.
apparently she did something that she was that she says was a different time period, something that was not her anymore. She's shown, according to a lot of people, that she's different now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think she still got hate about it a lot. So the question, and I don't mean to like delve into her specifically, but
Yeah.
I think just one example of like some cancer culture out there is how far back does someone's past affect them, or does it can someone be redeemed also? Is the two parts of this.
Well, so of course I believe people can be redeemed, right? Like, naturally, like everybody makes mistakes, and I've made mistakes. Everyone I've known has made mistakes.
Right.
And you ultimately just work towards being a better person. The issue is that Twitch does have, for instance, like we're specifically talking about people who make their living on Twitch. Twitch also has the right to hold people accountable for their mistakes, right? And it is their platform after all. And if they associate their names with people who have been caught doing pretty egregiously bad things,
Sure.
then there's a chance that they lose money because of losing sponsors, right? Absolutely, like losing ad revenue or whatever it might be. If that's like, rather than acting too late, they perhaps want to jump the gun and act a little bit ahead of time, act early, so that they can be absolved of being held accountable for being associated with certain people, such as, like, especially like where there's no question, such as Method Josh, where no one wants to be associated with him, right?
But I think that's one of the more extreme ones, right? That's
Yeah.
not where
Well, so
the average is.
has Fed been banned specifically from Twitch?
No, I mean,
so while this,
Twitch, I mean, Fed's been removed from offline TVs. Right.
yeah,
He's like, this coming out obviously hits him.
definitely hits him hard, right in it, and as well as it kind of should, because
Well, okay. I mean, is this is manipulation and like being a bad friend and overstepping, like, okay, the Yvonne stuff and Lily stuff, he overstepped his boundaries majorly, right?
Yeah, well, not only did
But
he
if we just
overstep
focus
his
on that part.
yeah.
Wait, what?
No, well, so I was going to say, not only did he overstep his boundaries, but from my understanding after the fact, especially with Yvonne, he tried to manipulate the situation so that his biggest problem, which was Yvonne potentially coming out with these allegations, he tried to have her removed from the household, meaning that she would no longer be associated with the offline TV brand and therefore lose her own career.
It's not just her then. I mean, all these other people came out against him.
Right, no,
I mean,
I
just
know.
removing her would not necessarily
But
stop any of this coming out.
of course not. But what, from my understanding, is that he
But
might
this all
have.
came out when when all these girls
Mm-hmm.
came, like apparently all these girls came together in the offline TV and friends around them,
Mm-hmm.
came together and started talking about Fed,
Yeah.
and they also said they have these issues, these stories about him. So it's not just Yvonne. If you remove Yvonne,
Mm-hmm.
I mean that doesn't stop all these other girls from talking to each other. They all had issues with the Fed. So
Yeah.
I'm okay. I'm saying I'm not an expert on this, but so there's two scenarios here with that. Okay, one, Fed. So Yvonne said she stopped working with Fed, right, because of what happened,
Correct.
and as they're making videos for offline TV, Fed
Mm-hmm.
saying Yvonne doesn't want to work with him,
Mm-hmm.
and oh she's lazy and this and stuff. Maybe so that could be him actually seeing that she doesn't want to work with him, but he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't know why per se. I mean, my hindsight against 2020, right? We know why
Yeah.
now, but
We know.
maybe he's blinding it off. He's like, oh, it's not a big deal. It must not be about that, right?
Right.
So it could be, oh, she doesn't want to work with me. She doesn't want to do anything with me. But that's like her role is like, helping with videos and all that stuff, right? So
Mm-hmm.
then it's like, oh well, Yvonne's not doing anything. She doesn't want to be part of it, and that's like giving him the benefit of doubt, which can be pretty hard based on everything that's happened, right?
Yeah.
But so that's one side. The other side is yeah, he has something against Yvonne. I'm personally, I think it's a little bit of in between. I think it's a little bit like he kind of deep down realizes like Yvonne's, he pushed some boundary with Yvonne trying to get rid of her.
Yeah.
But it could also be like more superficial, like, hey, she doesn't want to work with me.
I
She
mean,
doesn't really want to help out.
but I mean, deep down, what he did was assault. Ultimately, like it wasn't like he knows that she wasn't okay with him kissing her armpit or what was it?
Kissed her hand.
And then kissing her hand, and then she rejected his advances. Right at that point in time, like you gotta know. You can't just not know. Like you to claim ignorance in that after that situation, that would be to me kind of silly.
He blamed it on the alcohol. He said the alcohol, he wasn't thinking straight.
But did he claim a total lack of memory with regards
So
to that
initially he
incident?
did, but then
Yeah.
later on he said that he was sorry about it and
So
he made a mistake.
So okay, even if he initially did claim that he was, it was it was driven by alcohol, he still had a chance to sort of redeem himself a bit at least in the eyes of those people who came to him and had an intervention with him, right? Like at that point in time, he could have been like, he could have absolutely changed their opinion of him, and he could have done a lot of good for himself and for the sanity of the household, right? Just by owning up to it.
So I have the actual Yvonne statement. I'll read out really
Okay,
quick,
please.
so we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, her thing's pretty long. But I'll just
That's
read like
fine.
the actual first incident. So
Yeah.
So I was lying in bed with the lights off. So this is Yvonne, right?
Mm-hmm.
The door opened and Fed came in, drunk from going out that night, right?
Mm.
He crawled into my bed and laid there for a bit. Then he grabbed my hand and held it, and I didn't move at all because I was shocked. He then brushed my hand against his cheek and kissed it after. I was still in a state of shock, trying to process what's happening because this guy is supposed to be my friend.
Mm-hmm.
He also knew I had a boyfriend at the time. Next, he stuck his hand inside my sleeve and touched my side, next to my chest. Although it wasn't exactly my chest, it was close enough to make me feel extremely uncomfortable and feel like that was not a place where a friend should be touching me. I still could not move at this point, and in my head I was just begging him not to go further. And he did retract his hand and made it seem like he was sleeping. 10 minutes later he woke up and said, "Whoa, how'd I get here?" And then Yvonne asked, "Do you remember anything?" And he said no and left the room.
Yeah, that seems really manipulative and just sleazy. No? Well, I mean, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not. And because later on he says sorry about it. So it says he does remember, even though he said he didn't remember it. So yeah, creepy, sleazy, 100%.
Yeah.
So, but is that all it is? Just being a creep, right? He overstepped his boundaries.
So
right,
right, yeah. I mean, no one's saying like, oh, he should. I mean,
people do say like, whatever you're gonna say. I mean, people are gonna say. People said the worst allegations there is, right? Sexual assault, sexual harassment, or if you want to call it sexual, if that's the term you want to use.
it's pretty close to
the
assault,
definition
I would say.
is changing.
It's pretty close. If it
So
isn't,
what's
it's
the
pretty close.
So what's your difference? Like, what in your mind?
I mean,
what's
he
like the
physically touched
boundaries?
her in a place she was not okay with. That is pretty much assault. I
And so what
it
is
is not
what's
full
the
on. Maybe
so sexual harassment for you is just, I mean, there's verbal harassment. What's physical sexual harassment then?
I mean, maybe
Or is
we're
that just assault
arguing,
at
or
that
not
point?
arguing. I don't want to say arguing. Maybe like how we use those. I mean,
Yeah, I know
harassment would be
semantics,
maybe like
but I think
catcalling. Maybe isn't that
it's.
technically sexual harassment
I
anyway?
think this is very powerful words you're using here, like sexual assault. That's pretty. That's a pretty huge
But
term to
if that
use.
isn't it close? Because he is physically touching her on her skin under her shirt, close to her breast.
Right. It was in her sleeve, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, she was frozen by fear. Not to mention she had a boyfriend. So from what I understand, if she felt uncomfortable and he was physically touching her near her breasts under her
Right.
shirt, that's
Yeah. Like it
pretty
was right.
close
Like I
to
think it was like
her.
right sleeve or something. How it sounds like, or left sleeve.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna call that rape, but that's definitely harassment, if not close to assault. Like assault, does assault require full on rape? You
That's
know,
what I think. Well, I mean, my terms of sexual harassment is, yeah, you touched some. I think touching. Um, your breasts,
mm-hmm,
and some female genitalia. I think that's assault,
mm-hmm,
along with rape, right?
mm-hmm.
But I guess anything below that, I think. So the sexual harassment would be just be overstepping. Is any overstepping of boundaries sexual harassment? Is that the like the line here?
I mean, I would say this is closer to assault than harassment, simply because, I mean, physically, literally
If you want to just
close, right?
define it for us, just I think so we're all on the same page of what.
Yeah, I mean, we both know it's scummy. We both know it's sleazy.
But like, what's your definition of harassment? So I'll just we're on the same page for everything.
I mean, that's a good question. Harassment probably is. It's probably defined as, any sort of physical. I mean, at its, I guess, at its most extreme, in its most extreme form, would be anything physical that doesn't include, like you said, the chest or the genitalia
Yeah.
necessarily. Anything, but something that's still physical. But it could also be as small as like verbally sexually harassing someone, right? I don't want to say that's like insignificant. That's not how I mean to make it sound, but it is still significant.
So if someone touches a female, right,
Yeah.
and they're uncomfortable with it, that automatically turns into sexual assault. I mean, harassment, right?
I mean, it's pretty close. If it doesn't, it's pretty close. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
say so. I think that's
That's your
fair.
definition, sir. Okay.
And ultimately, I still don't think like he's going to face legal consequences, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, let's be honest.
If
This is not anything legally worthy?
it's
I'm not necessarily
it's
just
close
missing.
though. If it went any further, that's pretty damn close. What did you say? Like even
Touching, yeah,
the smallest smidge further, like just a few inches, his hand gravitates elsewhere. That's illegal territory right there.
right.
Yeah. So that's why I'm saying this is right up on the line of full on sexual assault if it
But he
isn't.
didn't, so he's not going to be charged with it, no
Probably.
matter what.
Yeah, it doesn't
Yes.
seem like it from what we understand so far. I mean, so
So
like you and I, we talked about before the episode
he's
when we were
skirting
just sort
boundaries,
of,
that's for sure. He's overstepping boundaries and skirting the line.
yeah,
Hardcore.
like when we were figuring out exactly what we were gonna like what we kind of wanted to cover on this episode. We also, I mean, do you think like social skill, like in the gaming community, like these are people who have built their brand on gaming and streaming, like there's a certain level of gaming culture in there. It's known pretty well that a lack of social skills is prevalent in this community. Like it's
That's to say
in
the
fact
least.
it's the norm probably. So I mean, how much do you think that needs to be taken into consideration?
I mean, I don't think in terms of what aspect, like understanding of the situation, or just.
Yeah, like so for instance, okay, let's talk maybe
I
like you
mean,
talked about the other incident with Fed where he went in, was massaging someone and asked them out, right?
Wait, what?
You talked about the other incident with Fedmyster where he went somebody else within the household and was giving them a massage which was consensual and asked them out or something, right?
Yeah. So actually, I can read it for you. Just
Sure.
we're on. Um. So this is what happened to Lily,
Yeah.
and Yvonne included what happened to her in her things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when she was going through her hard breakup with Albert, this was Lily, right? Going through hard breakup with Albert,
Mm-hmm.
her boyfriend at the time, or right before that. Fed also walked into her room, and while she was drunk, she was laying down and asked if she wanted a massage. She said sure, and he started massaging her leg
Yeah.
and then up her thighs. A week or so later, he was drunk and laid down next to her and told her he liked her. He then felt uncomfortable, or she felt uncomfortable with everything, and he asked her not to tell anyone what happened. Again, thinking back, it felt like he tried to take advantage of Lily when she was in a really vulnerable stage. Or state.
So he had established a baseline level of normalcy where it was acceptable for him to just sleep in people's beds. I
Yeah.
believe there was a clip going around after these stories started breaking out that Pokimane showed him still sleeping in her bed while she was streaming. And that's like, the one of the biggest names there.
Okay, so I guess the question has to be asked, okay? Just for the specific bed instance.
Yes.
Do you think it's ever on them to tell him to stop, or
Yeah.
is it
I mean,
always
of
on
course, they
Fed?
did not establish boundary. Like he clearly had
He established the
bulldozed
boundaries
over
with
their
her,
yeah. He
right?
bulldozed over their boundaries and established his own boundaries to the that
And
that.
I don't know how much they fought back. See, that's the thing here. It's hard to. That's the problem with all like these Twitter allegations in triathlon.
Yeah.
Is they give their story side of the story, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they say, "Oh, there's way more of it." But I can't make any judgments personally about what's happening that they don't tell us about, right? So I have to only go off of what they're telling us. So, right, it makes it sound like they might not like the boundaries at the beginning, but they didn't really hard stop it, right?
Yeah.
So now we have these weird boundaries that Fed has set up, right? With just in general.
Well,
Right?
so,
Okay.
but I mean, at a certain point, they should have realized, hey, he's only sleeping in the beds of the different women around the house. He's not sleeping in the beds of any of the men around the house. That should have been one very early major red flag. No, like, don't you think?
Is it? I mean, sure.
Like, because
But,
there's clearly as a straight man, he's clearly that. I mean,
right, but does that mean? So you're blaming this? Not blaming. I mean, are you saying it's up to the other people to like realize this?
Well, no,
and,
but that was
or
the
stop it,
first
or-
boundary that was crossed that was
Yeah.
could have been easily preventable and could have potentially saved themselves from being put in very awkward. I mean, of course it's going to lead to an awkward situation, won't? It just makes too much sense to me that it wouldn't. Like that you're already like pushing he's already pushing the boundaries.
Right.
Why allow him to do that? Yeah, they could have put an
I
easy
guess
hard stop to that early on.
I mean, it looks like they didn't.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, so yeah. So okay. So when so the other part that happened in Lily, he came in
Mm-hmm.
and asked her out when she was in a vulnerable state with what happened with Albert, her previous boyfriend, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when she realized everything that's happened with like previously like massaging her legs and stuff like that
Mm-hmm.
was wrong, but she was fine with it at the time. Whether that was because the sense of normalcy that he's established beforehand, right? Or the fact that she was drunk, a little bit drunk. We don't know how drunk it is because I think that there's a huge difference between like, you know, so drunk you're not going to remember anything and like a little bit tipsy or like drunk a little bit, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So right, two different like cognitive states, emotional states maybe, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think we should break it down. Massage. So at the time, if she was fine with massaging her leg and thighs, upper thighs, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, is the fact that she's drunk and doesn't say anything, is that, you know? Well, wait, what do you make of that situation?
Well, so yeah, when alcohol gets
It's so hard to make a decision here.
yeah, there's a reason why I think it's something like 995 out of every 1,000 sexual assaults go unpunished. And the reason for that is because of all these different levels of blurriness that come into the picture. And obviously, alcohol completely adds a level that makes it difficult to prove intent, right? And prove like what exactly happened. So
Because like yeah, right here she says it's only a week later when he asked her out.
yeah,
And so before I go continue further, asking her out, no matter like how like, even though she broke up with her boyfriend previously, I don't think asking her out is like anything bad. Like he could have done it awkwardly, right?
yeah.
But I don't think that's anything bad per se, right? Like, would you agree with that statement, or do you think it's still there's some boundaries there?
I mean, there should be boundaries. So, like,
I mean, as a friend, maybe, but like, I mean, is asking someone out, you know?
oh, is asking some? No, asking someone out doesn't constitute. I mean, otherwise, no one would ever go out.
So then, would you?
Yeah.
So would you think that Fed did not break anything wrong there by asking her out?
I mean, we ultimately, it's tough to know because we weren't there, right? We don't know
Right,
what
yeah.
the situation was. I mean,
Exactly.
but
That's
it
why,
was,
I
it's
mean, we
awkward
can only
because
go about.
a boundary was already crossed when he was in her bed, right? At that point.
And so so yeah, okay,
Yeah.
right, tough boundary to
Analyze, but yeah.
analyze,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
analyze,
Uh-huh,
yeah.
there you go.
Thanks, bud. So then she then says after that when he asked her out is she was then feeling uncomfortable with everything. Like she then regrets everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you mean by she regrets everything? She regrets
So
rejecting his asking.
no, like she then says she's then uncomfortable with everything at that point. So she was fine previously when it happened, but now
Yeah.
when he asked her out, she then felt uncomfortable with everything that's been going on.
Well, I think that's pretty understandable considering what's at stake, right? Like they're doing business together. Oftentimes, people say don't mix business with pleasure.
Well, I mean, she's dating someone in the house right now.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. But she understands that it could make things awkward between others as well, though, right?
Okay, so then if she's uncomfortable with it a week later, not uncomfortable with it at the time, right?
Yeah.
That's like, yeah, maybe Fed did some 900,000 IQ manipulation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And make it seem like it's normal for that to happen.
So are you is what you're getting at is do you think this should have come out
So yeah, I mean,
conjunction with everything else?
I think it's I think the question I'm asking is if she feels uncomfortable later on but she's fine at the time,
Mm-hmm.
is that still something wrong with what Fed was doing, or is that more of like something more about regret and how you realized that was not something you wanted,
Yeah.
right? She was uncomfortable with it now, but she was fine with it at the time.
So here's
Or is it because she was a little bit drunk that
so
Fed took advantage of her?
I'm going to answer this question very carefully because I
Right.
do not want to give.
I think it's a very tricky
Well,
question.
so I'm about to bring in an example of a friend of mine who underwent something like an awkward situation amongst my friend group. I have a friend group.
Before you do, let me just ask you one more question though.
Well, okay.
When she says she's uncomfortable with it at the time,
Yeah.
but not when it happened, is that regret? Would you classify that as regret?
And that's what I'm saying. That's why, so I want to
Okay,
use this
okay.
thing to
Sure,
answer
yeah.
that. Okay, so there was an incident between one friend of mine and another. They had hooked up, and so later on, so there was some stuff that happened that made things weird between the two afterwards. But we couldn't quite tell why as a friend group, but we did notice something going on. And so later, my friend, the female involved in the relationship, or the hookup, I should say, came to me and told me the story of what had happened, where this was months after the fact, where she wasn't sure if it was assault to begin with, because of what happened. And so then I had to ask the question, if this happened to your friend, would you be mad for your friend? Would you like want to support your friend, and like get them help or whatever? And my friend said yes. But that sort of paints like just how, and this was something that was worse than what happened with Fedmyster. It wasn't like it wasn't like anything violent or anything like that, but it wasn't good. And so that's just the fact that it was something that happened that was worse than what happened in these situations that we're talking about. But the fact that she still didn't know herself if this was a how she should feel about this months after the fact sort of painted a picture that it can show just how confusing situations like this can be. And even more, this was just a hookup between two friends. We ultimately had to out the other friend from the group. But this just sort of shows like even the victims of assault may not immediately know. And, this is anecdotal, but they may not immediately know how to feel about the incident right away. They might require some outside opinions. They might require some they might have to think on it a bit. They might have to, really like give it some analyzing,
So
as you said.
couldn't that be okay?
Yeah.
So couldn't that just be if it takes someone else's opinion? So
I'm not saying
I
that
want to
though.
go.
I don't want to say it takes someone else's opinion, but they might require some. They
Well,
might need some
do you want where I'm
context.
going with it? Like, I just want to. I'm not trying to dismiss anything.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
like,
yeah.
if it takes someone else saying, "Oh, hey, that's actually predatory. What happened to you?" And is it that they're too involved in the situation, or whatever the reason is,
Mm-hmm.
or is it because they have different views on what's appropriate or not appropriate?
It it's a tough question to answer. Like these things, we're not gonna solve all the sort of the
Right, but I think
everything that's.
establishing like a boundary, because like in society we establish in America anyway is,
Mhm.
oh, 18 years old is the difference between predator, like being a pedo, and being a normal person.
Even America isn't necessarily consistent on that. There's states with lower
Right,
thresholds.
and like the UK,
Yeah.
in the UK, how you can be 16 and have a sexual relationship with a girl.
Right, but 18 to send a picture or whatever. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's just
Uh,
confusing. Yeah.
so that's the thing. I think even though okay, people develop at different rates and there's different mental um, attitudes about each situation,
Mm-hmm.
having a baseline definitely helps put perspective or put a frame on the picture, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Okay, is so she wasn't told by anyone. She realized that she was uncomfortable with everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that's what a lot of people, not a lot of people. I don't want to say make any generalizations here
Sure.
because I don't have any stats to back this up, right? But I think some people, some people in general, might realize later on they were uncomfortable with the situation, but maybe were, I guess, didn't say anything at the time or didn't do anything at the time. So I think I'm also confused on where the line is. Right? Is this harassment? Is it just them being looking at a different picture at the time? Like, what's the? I guess for me, I don't know where the line is, and so that's the
Well,
problem.
I think I mean, with regards to this specific situation, I think it's at least, if nothing else, it's clear that it is less legal than what happened.
Sure.
Or I said that the wrong way. It's actually more legal than what happened with Method Josh, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah, yeah,
like
right,
what
right.
happened with him was undoubtedly illegal,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
However, what's happening here, while okay, it may not be illegal per se, it might be something that is definitely creep defining. It is like shady, and like the things he did where it is enough for them to make the decision to kick this person out of the house, even though it's probably not in their best financial interest in the long term. Maybe in the short term they get quote, okay, maybe it's, I don't mean to say this is the sole motivation for what they did, but in the short term they will get more support. They will get, that's just, people, the Twitch community we've noticed as a whole is trying to steer themselves towards, more positivity, less toxicity, things like that, based on
Probably.
what's going on. So they will get more short-term support, but long-term they're losing someone who I think was in the peaking in terms of their peak followership or whatever you want to call it, was reaching top 30, top 40 levels on Twitch. So they were Fed was a pretty big
Right. And so they
figure.
said that.
Yeah.
So in this statement, they did say the only reason they were making the statement,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like, okay, so if you remove him from the house just without telling anybody, or well, leaving it internal, right,
Mm-hmm.
and just saying, oh, he didn't work out or something, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Some BS. I mean, the only reason they said they made the statement is so they want to warn other females about how he acts.
Which is fair because didn't they give him multiple chances to come or sort of
Yeah,
be
like
held
work out
accountable?
like what they, right?
Yeah, so it's fair.
Um,
They've gave him multiple chances, and when someone, when someone doesn't, if you're given a lifeline multiple times and you reject it, and not only reject it, but that, as you said, after the intervention, he went and talked to other people negatively about that intervention. I think that you said that, right? I believe so.
yeah. Well, no. So, well, kind of. He tried to twist his side of the story
Yeah,
because other women he did this with,
yeah.
like overstepping boundaries. He tried to make it like he gave his side of the story, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that obviously twisted it into something more favorable for him.
Yeah, so
And they said that's not acceptable because he needs to take um, just take
own it. Like, just
responsibility.
own it and just own up to being a creep and try and like better himself as a person. Like, these were his friends who all at once told him. I don't know how close they all were to him in terms of friendship, but
I
if
think that,
nothing,
I mean, you live in a house together. I feel like it really makes it.
yeah. But I'll say, if nothing else, they were absolutely, like, they had his best interests at heart. Right, like
Right.
everyone's best interest at heart. They're trying to fix the situation in private before going public with it multiple times. So
And yeah,
yeah, I mean, at that point, you gotta say, I agree with them going public. You don't,
I mean,
or do you? It sounds like you may not.
I'm just okay. I feel like I do agree with it. Like, yeah, I mean, if they felt like this was the best route
Yeah.
in terms of like making a resolution to the situation, yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
I just more curious about like where the line is everything on each individual situation. I think that's my confusion.
Well, I mean, we at least know the line is almost not necessarily even a factor here, because I think the line you're talking about is a legal one, right? A legal/illegal one.
Well, I guess I mean I'm just want to find a moral line to match the legal line per se.
Okay. You would. I
I
mean,
think because it'll help. I think for me it would help make everything a little bit more clear.
yeah.
What we consider what is harassment, what is assault, and what is just regret, and what is just awkwardness.
Well, I'll say I
The
am glad you asked me that question earlier, because I'm not I mean, I think I know the right answer to that, but I will have to do some thinking after this episode to like.
Because I mean, a lot of this is based on just gamers being awkward, lack of social skills,
Sure, yeah, but
or understanding how, and some of this, yeah, manipulation, all that stuff, right?
mm-hmm,
But I mean, a lot of these sexual allegations came out,
mm-hmm.
or allegations in general. Okay, now let me say a lot. Some of them, when reading them, I feel like they based around just people, not understanding how to be like approach society and being social with females, right?
But I think
I mean, some of these are just soliciting news from underage girls, grooming underage girls, and all that stuff, right?
oh
So I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
condone that at all. Like some of the more gray area stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I think that gets a little bit confusing.
But in a way, it's good that these allegations came out, because it helps people understand what the boundaries are. Like, it should not be okay that a guy sleeps in only beds of girls. That when he's
So
not
if she
sleeping,
was okay
should.
with it, then
What?
you would be fine with that, or do you still think no matter what?
I mean, I would say, if I can't be like, okay, I'm about to define the boundaries for all friendships, but if a guy was consistent and at least slept in guys' beds as well as girls' beds, if as a straight male,
So
then
that's the thing. They try to like say it was just Fed things at the time. They try to like brush it down and say it's just Fed things,
yeah.
and so that really,
I mean,
because he normalized the behavior, and it really muddled up like what is right, what is wrong.
It's very easy to like, don't get me wrong, like when hindsight is 2020, and it's very easy to
Right.
ascribe certain behaviors towards, now that they understand that he's kind of a creepo. They're gonna ascribe everything off, put it, maybe everything that could be associated with like, being a creepo, as definitely being the reason, him being a creepo for the reason he did that. It may not have necessarily been the case every single time, such as, it's not necessary, maybe he truly just had like, I mean, I don't know why someone would sleep in another person's bed.
I guess he thought it
I
was
think that's
okay,
weird.
and I think
I,
that's part of like,
I mean, it's
you
possible
know,
he thought it was okay, but I don't find it likely. So it's just that specific thing, but also, okay, it's not okay to go around lying about, relationships.
right.
It's not
I mean,
okay,
that's not like. I mean, yeah,
right?
that's being just an asshole.
That's pretty cut and
Compared.
dry. Yeah, that's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
Like, there's no, like, that's just being straight up being a jerk and a dickhead, and just like not being a good housemate in any right. It's like just tooting your own horn for just some like weird lying and flexing for just no reason.
Right,
It's
but
not
like, is
okay.
manipulation of friendship and lying, is that like? Because I feel like it comes to the point of like cancel culture and like the Twitter allegations,
Mm-hmm.
where in this one specifically, as we're using the example,
Mm-hmm.
it goes from like, oh, boundaries of females and stuff into more like manipulation of friendships and stuff. And I feel like that stuff makes someone an asshole, but
I mean,
is
the
it?
manipulation was primarily focused on multiple women, though,
Well, apparently a lot of people are like, yeah,
right?
100%, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of friends are coming out of his saying, oh, he also did some manipulation shit with me,
Oh, I'm
and then,
sure.
all this other stuff, and what he did at Pokey also, right? So I don't know. I guess, yeah, I 100% agree. Of coming out on Twitter was what they deemed the best way.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, maybe him trying to realize his actions were wrong.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Right. I'm still, again, like, what's the boundaries, right? I think what's
Yeah.
the definition here?
One thing that will be interesting is he's not gone forever. He will come back,
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
Like, he's going to come back because he will still make money, and unfortunately, there are still to this day people who completely think he is in the right and not in the wrong at all. And so he will have a following. There are Fed stands, or whatever you want to call them.
I mean, that's for everybody. I think there's always going to be that
Yeah,
people
they're
for
going to
any
be there.
problem.
So it will be interesting to see if he comes back and he's, contrite for his actions, and he tries to do some good. Like I mentioned Michael Vick
Okay,
earlier.
so then how do you, for Fed, let's use Fed example again.
Yeah.
How do you, in your opinion, how would he have to show that he's changed?
I mean, there's not much he can. I mean, he might say he's
Just
undergoing
like, don't
counseling.
do it again, or
or
like, what's the deal?
he might talk about going to therapy, going to counseling. Like, he might mention stuff. I know that people, like, something that has kind of become a recent thing on Twitch, and we'll probably get into this more next week, is they stream sessions with, therapists. And so,
Right, the Dr. K.
yeah,
stuff.
like Dr. K. Although Dr. K himself says that that's not necessarily him being a therapist as much as just being, a friend or a person who's hearing you out, as just being a good human being, like trying to help people through their problems. But it's not necessarily because that, in terms of patient confidentiality, I don't know if he can technically, you could pay him $1 million and be like, let's stream our session, but he might be violating his own oaths that he's taken, and he might lose his licensing as a result of that. I don't know. I don't know enough about it to know for sure if psychologists can do that.
I would assume that if the patient agrees, maybe they could do something, but
Yeah, I'm not
that's
sure.
kind of
But ultimately, it will be interesting. Like, that would be a good. If I had to say, if I was Fed's agent, I would say definitely do that. Stream it and show that you're that's something you can do. He could go volunteer for different organizations
Yeah,
that
sure.
talk about that. He doesn't necessarily, he can go also and have conversations behind the scenes with people from offline TV, and show sincerity in his apologies, with apologizing, I should say. And they might end up coming out and saying, okay, he's okay. I doubt they'll ever let him back in the house, but you know what I mean, like,
Right.
making it right with the people who he has directly negatively influenced or harmed is a good start. And then going from there and to rebuild his brand, he will be able to rebuild it, and he'll get positive attention, and things will probably be okay. Like, people have come back for worse,
Worse, yeah.
for sure. So, like I said, Michael Vick, after he did everything, and I believe he even worked with PETA, the animal organization, he was able to regain his NFL career. So, he did just fine for himself, and he was a literal dog killer. So that's pretty bad in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
So yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and yeah, I think. Yeah, it's just such a gray area, to be honest, when you get into these other stuff. But yeah, I think he will come back as long as he. I mean, he'll always have a following, as you said, but I think, yeah, if he makes the right steps, he'll come back for sure.
Yeah, once you reach a certain level of like following and like have thousands of people interested in you, no matter what you do, like you will be able to regain that base, almost no matter how bad you screw up. Almost. Like Method Josh has lost it. Technically, he should probably go to jail for a while.
Yeah,
but
technically, right?
Yeah, I don't know if he will.
Unfortunately,
I would hope
it's hard
so.
to prove.
But yeah. So
yeah.
Anyways, sounds like do you have anything to add, you think, or?
No, not really.
Not really?
I do. I think I did find that one thing with fragments, but just to like quickly clarify.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, we probably have a couple minutes. Let's touch on that really quick.
Yeah.
Before we end off, but yeah, so what happened to her is like she started to cut herself, and around with this, and so the new guild that they joined or she joined, they got a hold of her nudes, right? So that made that a bad experience.
Sure.
And so apparently also during around that time, her mother was stage 4 breast cancer.
Oh, okay.
And right around when this was happening, she died, and she said that she was too focused with fragments to really be there for her mother. So yeah, it looks like she also went to counseling. So yeah, she, I think, took quite a toll from this.
Yeah, that sounds pretty serious. And some
in a
people
hard place.
advocate for like, the punishment should fit the severity of the the effect on the victim. I don't know. Like,
because I mean, other people, right? I mean, everyone approaches like someone sharing the nudes differently, so it's hard to. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very a very modern issue, which I don't know if our lawmakers have necessarily quote unquote caught up to, because there are mostly boomers who just don't understand technology to any extent.
But even if they do understand it, is this something that's is sharing nudes of someone legal above 18 legally wrong in your opinion?
That's where it's very difficult, because some people might have the consent to do that, but consent can be established verbally. So how do you prove that? How do you?
Oh, so okay, yeah.
Right,
sure.
like if let's say I was in a consensual relationship where my girlfriend shared certain pictures with me, and I had her permission to go share that with whoever. Let's just say that was the type of relationship I was in. I mean, if she later goes on and changes her mind, how do I prove that she initially said it was okay? You know what I mean? Like, it's just so difficult to just make a single statement that covers all the different scenarios. That's just the first one I could think of off the top of my head, but I'm sure that things can change with every relationship, and boundaries are defined differently. So I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Like, I don't know if there's an answer to that.
I think I agree with what your statement. It's such a gray area, but like you can't really have an encompassing statement about it. So
yeah. No.
Unfortunately, at the end of the day, yeah. But I mean, I think the only aspect that can change is socially how we approach the situation versus, because I don't think politically, changing laws could necessarily, especially on these gray area type of situations, really make a difference. But
yeah,
I think has to happen from like a social aspect.
Sure. For sure.
And I think this is a start, right? At least at the very least, this is a start.
Yeah, the conversation is definitely happening. And there's a lot of it's by no means is it easy to navigate though, with these gray area type of situations. So Yeah, so I think we are wrapping up. Just to end on a lighter note, Ash, have you started your placements for the season in Overwatch yet? The new season?
Yep,
Have
I
you?
did.
How are they going?
I placed so open queue.
Yeah,
I placed 2987 or something like that. I think.
it's decent.
Yeah,
It's,
it was. I mean, I thought it was better than what I expected because I was just.
how were you
I
queuing?
was
Were you
running
just
like
were you
I was queuing with
flexing?
some friends, so we were running like all healers, all tanks, or all DPS, right?
Oh, you were memeing. And,
Yeah, I was memeing the whole time,
yeah,
100%.
and you just
Right. I mean, isn't I? That's why I think open queue is people were playing two. Like we ran into people playing 222 or triple shield, and
yeah.
I was like, dude, come on, like that's like why would you do this? That's not fun.
Yeah, it's
So,
antithesis of what you're supposed to be
but yeah, I
doing.
still placed 2987, and then one game put me at 3K, so that's good.
That's pretty good, and that's on your main account, right?
Yeah, it's on my main, and then
Which luckily
for
you have back.
right,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, well that's
but
good.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, and then for roll queue, I did DPS and then placed 2900, because yeah, last time I stopped, I dropped down a tiny bit. We won't talk about it though.
yeah, yeah. Me too. Me too. Me too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
that's can't complain. The game is how it is. At least they're making some changes, so that's not bad.
Yeah, they had the brig nerfs, Junkrat buffs, which I'll always take. Very minor, but
Genji's too strong. Genji's way too strong, like
Who
100%.
who
In my
is
opinion. Genji?
Genji? Yeah. Apparently,
Like,
Overwatch League, he's like an insta pick right now.
yeah, he is. He's so strong.
Yeah,
Like his buffs are like massive.
yeah. It'll be
So
interesting to see if they compensate for the buff, how quickly they react to his dominance right now, because that's what I understand as well. Like he's very
yeah.
much an insta lock in the meta. So, but yeah, all right. Well, this has been GamerWatch, episode 3, technically.
Right.
So yeah, thank you for those of you who have been following us so far. We see the first episode is actually doing better than the 1 or 2 viewers I expected us to get. We're
Right.
getting there. We're building a small little following. We'll take it. We are on Instagram. I'm sorry. We're on Twitter at GamerWatchPod, I believe is our handle, and on
Yes.
Instagram I believe we are GamerWatch Podcast. Correct?
They will both be linked down below also, if you just want to click the
That
links.
is correct. They will be linked down below. I'm Rom. That's Ash over there. Well, let's tell the people goodbye. Let's call it a night.
Yeah. Thanks for stopping by.
All right. See ya.